some folks to die.
By these 50 countries, differing so much in race and religion, in language and culture.
It is a big idea, a new world order.
Well, I know they're lying. They tricked me once, but they're not going to trick me twice. The time is now. Welcome back to the Professor Penn podcast. David Penn, your host. Glad to be with you as always for episode number 247, Burqas and Bibles. Coming to you on this Thursday night, the 16th of October, 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Away we go. I've noticed, and welcome to all of you that are tuning in, and thank you for listening. I really have no idea how widely this podcast gets distributed. It's just impossible for me to track it. And there's this polarity here. On the one hand, because it's fun, everybody's got an ego and money needs. I want a giant audience. Giant. Because I know my content is good and you're telling me the content is good. I've had so many people come to me and say, I've listened to all 246 podcasts. I mean, my mind is blown by that. It means that I'm putting a lot of time in and that what I'm delivering is valuable. I like that. I want to build that audience. And as I've said, and as I've been very disclosing about this, I really respect Dan Schultz for what he's done for the freedom movement in this country by reviving our understanding of the precinct strategy, American civics, and how people can actually be politically potent in the United States of America. And because I believe that the professional politicians, the professionals, the people that have dedicated their lives to serving us, ha, ha, ha. I don't think they can save me or my family. So I really am hard on these people, not because I don't like them personally, because I want to stand them up to defend my liberty. And then it doesn't work, right? Because they've got all kinds of pressures and they're running a business. And, until they really are afraid of their constituents, they're going to do whatever they want to do. And we see it time and time again, from the very top of the heap right on down to the local county commissioner. Hell, the dog catcher is acting that way. So I want to see citizens get involved in politics. And because I've done it, I know how effective citizens can be. And so there's the audience on one hand, and then there's building an army on the other, an army of citizens that get involved in politics, which is the point of the podcast for me. Because I really don't have the desire to be an entertainer, although I would like to be entertaining. So Dan Schultz, and those of you who've been in, he kept coming in the podcast, live chats, and he was toasting me for what does this have to do with solving our country's problems? And I've been saying to him, man, we got to have an audience of people that are listening so we can deliver the message. And then one day I woke up and I said, boy, caucus is coming in February. We're going into an election year. Yet again, one of the most important elections in American history is coming up right around the corner. Man, that's a scam too. My point being, I noticed that my audience numbers on YouTube go down when we get just focused on strategy and tactics. So I got to find a balance because we've got an international audience. I know people are listening to me and, all over the world, Australia, England, the Middle East, Europe. I've got people listening everywhere throughout this world, which is really cool, and all over the country. And we're trying to build this thing up so that it has some value to the citizens of this world, because I want to survive and thrive in a world that is dominated by the concept of republicanism, which makes you a citizen sovereign. And that requires us to understand the philosophy of republicanism and know how to compare it with Marxism and liberalism and libertarianism. We have to understand this stuff so we put ourselves in the camp that we choose. And then it just comes down to a numbers game. And of course, we're not very clarified about these different philosophies, both because they blend and blur together, A. B, the politicians that represent us sometimes hide behind certain labels where they appear as one thing, but they're really something else. And then we just haven't done the work as citizens to understand the world we're living in very well. So there's so many reasons. I mean, with so many reasons we got to be focused on religion and philosophy, but ultimately without strategy and tactics, what does it mean? So let me just share starting out. If you're in Kentucky or Florida or Georgia, it's the same thing. We citizens in the citizens movement need to band together. I was on a Rumble. What do you? Good morning, Tanner.
Good morning.
What do you call that thing we did on
I
Rumble?
think it was just a Rumble live stream.
A Rumble live stream.
Yep.
Operated by a very successful Rumble creator, Killer Carl, who's going to be on the podcast soon. He's cool. He invited me on. I thought that was just fantastic. Went on, and he did something just improvisationally that was great. He said, if you're in Georgia or if you're in Kentucky and you want to help Royce White get elected here in Minnesota, you can participate in that campaign. And I thought to myself, boy, was that smart, because we got states that are going to elect Republicans for sure. For sure. They're Republican states. You see it on the map. And those citizens have to be politically engaged in their own state to maintain the ascendancy and the power of the Republican concept in their home precinct, in their home district. They got to, but if you think about it from a military perspective, and I don't want to make this into, oh, we're having a war, because we're not shooting at each other right now, generally, but it's good imagery because it is a ideological battle. We know that. You think about it in terms of military strategy. If you have a certain amount of resources, material, manpower, for example, intelligence, where are you going to deploy those resources? I mean, it's a little silly to deploy the resources without considering the map. And that's what we do here in the RNC nationally. There's no effort to get people in Kentucky or Oklahoma helping the poor bastards like me in Minnesota that are living in the belly of the beast. There's no effort to do that. Carl, that was a great idea. And that goes in your state. Like I drove, and just Tuesday night, I drove 3 hours north of the cities to an event. We're going to talk about it in Hubbard County, Minnesota. Hubbard County's up by Park Rapids. Park Rapids was the city I was in. You've never heard of this probably. Man, this was great. This is a Republican plus 20 district. I mean, this is a Republican district. And these people are Republicans. And it was invigorating to be there with these people. We do events down in the cities, 20 people show up. This place was jam-packed. This is a functional political unit up there. My friend Robert, who I talk about frequently, is in that political unit, and he was very instrumental in putting this deal on, and he did a great job, and the thing was fantastic. My point is, if you're in a state and you're in a district that's R plus 20, go help some of the poor bastards like me that are living in, blue plus 10s. We need help. We got to start to think through tactically how we're going to deploy our resources. That's a tactic, an idea. Maybe it's a strategy because it's really a meta idea of working together as Republicans to dominate this contest. Got to work together. I'll tell you another one. A guy walked up to me up at that deal. Cool dude. He was in the bait and tackle business. And he knows who I am. And he's seen me here and there. And he goes, how do I get to your podcasts? And I go, well, just go to YouTube. And he goes, I don't know how to do that. Talk to my wife. And I thought to myself, this guy's my age. He's capable of figuring this out. He's a political educator and activist, but he's not on X. And I'm going to tell you where the action is on X. That's where I know you might be on Facebook. That's cool. You might be here and there. You know, you might be on Blue Sky. You could be over on Truth Social. I get it. Get her. I get it. Where we have to go is where we will all decide to go. We're going to distribute on all these platforms, but where the battle is really going on ideologically is X. You know, I'm on Getter. That's just everybody on the right beating on each other. That's cool. I like that too. That's a rough crowd. But there's no leftists on Getter. There's no liberals on Getter, so to speak. And, you know, of course they're there, but I'm talking about the preponderance, the bulk of the numbers. It's the same thing with Truth Social. But here on X, we've got a wide range of political philosophies and adherents all coming together, and they're contending. So I'm going to say, if you're in Minnesota or any state, I'm asking you, repost the link to this podcast everywhere you can, because I'm not going to get any help from the algos. YouTube is not going to help me distribute this. I guess we could get more entertaining, put some sound effects on, wear costumes, then it might work.
Yeah.
But this is serious business. And I have not been very entertaining, lately, because I'm not entertained in my life by what I'm seeing, and it makes me a little bit uber serious. But please repost the link. And then, if you're in a political unit or a political activist anywhere in any state, bring your contacts into X and everybody link up with each other so that we can widely disseminate information quickly. And it's coming. I mean, I've been saying this for 2 years, and compared to where it was when we started, it's way bigger in terms of coordination and communication. There was a Patriot, Minnesota, a citizen that lives on the farm, a farmer. She posted up something about farm policy. I reposted it. I said, everybody repost this. It's great. She thanked me. We have never met. I'd like to meet you if you're listening to the podcast. And I looked, and within 4 or 5 hours, guess what? Phil Parrish was reposting it and commenting on it.
Right.
I mean, this is how it's got to work. We have a digital media that allows us to share information about the precinct strategy, about tactic, about what's going on, and holding these elected officials accountable so that they fear their constituents. Right now, you get into like CD3, where I live, and you got a district just like this. There is an outer and inner ring group of suburbs around every urban area in the country. And in every urban area, that is dominated by the leftists. They have the juice to control those populations, and that's just what they do. And then, of course, the Republicans, mostly the white people, move out of the suburbs, move out of the city into the suburbs where they hold court. And then that's where the college-educated people go to live, and those suburbs over time become from red to purple to blue. And that's what we got going here in CD3. And that's what we got going in your backyard. You get into these purple and blue districts out in the suburbs. We got to work on this to get these suburbs focused on not being a problem. We've got legislators that get elected in the Philadelphia outer ring suburbs, in the Minneapolis outer ring suburbs, in the, you name the city, it's the same thing. And see, these elected Republicans, like Kevin McCarthy, a perfect example. To get elected in their districts, they've made the decision that they're progressives so that they can appeal to the leftists, moderates, they call them moderates, in their backyard, because what they're doing is they're operating a business of politics that is their business. Well, that's not Royce White's business. That's not David Penn's business. And there's some others like Phil Parrish. That's not Phil Parrish's business. He's not in the business of politics. He's in the business of searching for truth. And of course, then you get the rumor mill goes, these people are not tier one candidates. They can't raise money. And that goes right up to people that I respect that say that. And I'm going to tell you, money is no longer an issue as long as we have this digital media. If we link together, like say here in CD3, and I'm going to talk about this. I got this guy in my backyard, Andrew Myers, right in my district, wants to trade my gun rights so that he can keep his job. Okay, Andrew. Now, I'm not going to get off your ass, Andrew, until you stand up and act like a Republican. And all the rest of you on that SD45 board that let him be a Democrat, well, why is that? Because you all are Democrats and you don't want to admit it to yourselves. If we form this digital community, these people will have to respond to us because we'll be together. So bring everybody you know to X and link them together and repost the links to the podcast and repost all of the different posts that are made. And let's get into this digital community, all the people that are with us, and let's get organized. You know, I'm thinking, Tanner, we probably need to have just seminars for boomers who don't know how to use social media.
Yeah.
Or you know what you could
I
do?
could literally just make a video on how to
Yes,
share
you
our
could. What a
content.
great tactic.
Okay.
You could make a video. Tanner's very creative. He'll make, you know what? He'll make
That's
a
half
video.
your idea. That's hilarious.
No, but you're going to create the video, and that's going to take some creativity,
Thank
right?
you. Thank you.
And we'll post that up on the X, on the Getter, everywhere. But of course, the people that need to find the information won't be there. You got to bring them there. You're going to have to download the video, put it in an email, and send it to them, or however we're going to communicate. You know, it's like this guy I met up in Park Rapids. The dude was hilarious. His business card said, if you're too busy to fish, you're too busy. That was his business card. He was in the bait and tackle business. And the dude was hilarious. But he doesn't have any social media skills. But he's at the meeting. He's a Republican and he wants to see Republicans get elected. I guess you can write a check. So this is another tactic. If you really don't want to do any of the work, you could send Free People Radio a donation. We would love to get that from you. If you need some help getting us money, go to support@tireget.com. I'm certainly sure that I'd be glad to help you support this broadcast. That's another tactic. We need money to expand this programming. In upcoming weeks, we're going to have as a guest Steve Boyd, who's going to tell me the story about how Michelle Fishbach stepped on him and the Republican Party of Minnesota stepped on him in CD7. A very, very interesting story that I'm not going to let go away, Alex Plekish, just like I'm not going to let the Michael Broadcorp story go away. I know you want to bury it. I know you want me to forget it as if it's ancient history. But these people are still in place, the Bobby Bensons of the world. They're still in place. They're still doing their thing. Waiting quietly in the weeds for the Republican Party to nominate, endorse, and affirm candidates that the establishment doesn't like. That whisper campaign. Oh, Phil Parrish really can't raise enough money. And the guy that told that to me, I respect. He's a good dude. But see, he's looking at it from an old frame. And until we really make this social media work for us, it still is the current frame. But remember, we just had that podcast where we had those clips from Precarious State, and that leftist from Minneapolis said that the Democrat socialists starting in 2018 use social media to organize.
Yeah.
They did it. You know why? They're young people. We got some old ones like Bernie Sanders. Okay, we got some original gangsters in the socialist camp, but really the juice in the socialist camp is 18 to 35-year-olds. We established that. You know, and so we've got this digital media. I want my numbers to explode. But what I really want to do is go all over this state and organize it, like I went to Park Rapids and drove 6 hours Tuesday night, and here I am in the studio at 5:30 in the morning. Yes, tireless work to preserve freedom. So we got to get that digital thing going, so when they whisper campaign that XYZ candidate can't raise enough money, therefore we need Kristen Robbins. Well, let me tell you, Royce White made a fantastic point at that event in Park Rapids. If you can raise money, you sold out. Let me say this again, candidates. If you're going to start bragging about how much money you can raise, you're selling out to moneyed interests. I personally don't want that to be what makes our politics work. I want it to be you and me. When you go into politics, because see, that's the essence of republicanism, civic participation by citizens, a cornerstone of republicanism. That's a cornerstone. When you do it, that blunts the power of the money interest. So if you want to be ruled, keep it up. Watch the content. And then say to yourself, well, I'm too busy. My mother's in the nursing home. I got kids in school. I got a job. I just don't want to do it because politics is no fun. My home is in heaven. I'm a citizen of heaven. I'm a Christian. I'm born again and I'm saved. I don't want to be involved in this mess. Whatever your excuse is, it's an excuse. If you want to call yourself a Republican, and I don't mean an adherent to the Republican Party, I'm talking about the philosophy of republicanism. Stands on that I am a citizen sovereign. That's a cornerstone. I'm a sovereign of my own life. Number two, Republicans believe in the protection of minority rights. We protect minority rights. That's what it is to be a Republican. We believe that our politics is about the greater good. Not like the liberals. For liberals, it's all what's in it for me. That's not a Republican concept. That's a liberal concept. No, a Republican concept is I will treat my neighbor as I wish to be treated. That's republicanism. And the fourth cornerstone, I am personally involved in maintaining the republic, citizen sovereign, minority rights, the common good, civic participation. If you're not doing all four of those things, you're not a Republican. Get me? Don't talk smack. Live it or leave it. Because you know what? If we don't live it, they're going to take it from us anyhow. Look around you, can't you see? And who's taking it from us? Well, let me tell you how I feel about this. You know, I got very high SAT scores. High. I operate multiple businesses. I'm in the trench every day. You can't get any more real than being an entrepreneur. I'm highly trained in several secret societies. And when I mean secret societies, I mean like, developing personal skills, high-level skills. You know what? Having a relationship with the unknown world, the Holy Spirit, Jesus Christ, however you want to say it to yourself. I'm not here to tell you how to talk to yourself. That's a skill. It's a high-level skill, has to be developed. And there's a lot of people, I think most American citizens at this point in time, maybe they profess to be Christians, but do they have really a relationship with an unseen world? Are they willing to live their lives and change their behaviors for something that they can't see and taste and touch and feel? That's the game right there. That's the game. And when you do it, when you give over to it, I still see what's going on from a scientific perspective. I still see what's going on from a political perspective. I see what's going on in the dirt. I haven't lost my mind. I'm sure of that. But I got another gear. So I choose to describe things at the most profound level of description that I can get my limited mind wrapped around. Now, President Roosevelt said that if it happens in politics, it happens for a reason. So even in the material world, our great President Roosevelt, and if you don't like him, he was a great president, for somebody at least, he said that things don't happen by accident. We tend to believe, or at least we believed for a long time, that things just happen, that incompetence creates chaos. Well, I'm going to tell you, yes, incompetence creates chaos. Why is it incompetent? There's another level of description. And pursuant to that, and for reasons that many of you will understand, in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost, amen. Most glorious Prince of the heavenly armies, Saint Michael the Archangel, defend us in our battle against principalities and powers, against the rulers of this world of darkness, against the spirits of wickedness in high places. Come to the assistance of men whom God has created in his likeness, and whom he has redeemed at a great price from the tyranny of the devil. Holy Church venerates thee as her guardian and her protector. To thee the Lord has entrusted the souls of the redeemed to be led into heaven. Pray therefore the God of peace to crush Satan beneath our feet, that he may no longer retain men captive and do injury to the church. Offer our prayers to the Most High, that without delay they may draw his mercy down upon us. Take hold of the dragon, the old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bind him and cast him into the bottomless pit, that he may no longer seduce the nations. Amen. Whoever dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, he is my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. Surely he will save you from the fowler's snare and from the deadly pestilence. He will cover you with his feathers, and under his wings you will find refuge. His faithfulness will be your shield and rampart. You will not fear the terror of night, nor the arrow that flies by day, nor the pestilence that stalks the darkness, nor the plague that destroys at midday. 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 at your right hand, but it will not come near you. You will only observe with your eyes and see the punishment of the wicked. If you say, the Lord is my refuge, and you make the Most High your dwelling, no harm will overtake you, no disaster will come near your tent. For he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways. They will lift you up in their hands, so that you will not strike your foot against a stone. You will tread on the lion and on the cobra, and you will trample the great lion and the serpent under your foot. Because he loves me, says the Lord, I will rescue him. I will protect him, for he acknowledges my name. He will call on me, and I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will deliver him and honor him. With long life, I will satisfy him and show him my salvation. Believe it. Believe it. Whatsoever you believe when you pray, believe it and you will receive it. Peace. Peace. Peace is alleged to be breaking out in the Middle East. Of course, the jury's out on that one. I've been hearing that since 1967. So there's definitely some change going on there. And the reason why that is guess what? With all of President Trump's flat spots, which are on full display, he is not a politician. President Trump is an politician. And what I mean by saying that is, your professional politician, like here in Minnesota, Kristen Robbins, a professional, they're not interested in solving any problems. Because if they solve problems, the money dries up. It's like health and well-being. Tanner, you're healthy, right?
Yeah.
How often do you go to the doctor?
Oh, not much.
Because you're healthy.
Yeah.
I guess we got to get you sick because we got a $2 trillion industry tied up in medicine, and you got to kick in,
Yeah.
buddy. Kick in, mother. Kick in, okay? So you're not kicking in the pot.
No.
You're maintaining your well-being. Now, Tanner has a little malady. I'm not going to talk about it. It's a minor thing. It bothers him, but it ain't going to kill him. We all have annoyances. Because guess what? We're perfect just the way God made us. There's a reason why we have annoyances. We just are looking for a palliative so the annoyance goes away. For example, let's say you got a little problem, whatever it is. Like for me, I'll speak personally. I woke up for 3 months in a row with lower back pain. Thinking, is my bed wore out? I'm in great shape. My stomach's strong like concrete, okay? But every morning I'd get up, my back would hurt. And I'm thinking, why is my back hurting? No, I could have run to the doctor. It hurt so bad I started thinking, man. Now, this is another thing. You got to have a dashboard in your brain. Is this a serious problem that requires medical intervention? Or is this a sign to deal with issues in your life? You see, we tend to view our bodies as stupid because we've been taught that our bodies are dumb. That's how our doctors are trained in medical school, that our bodies are machines. I got a joke out of this, a kick out of this just this week. Secretary of Health and Human Services, Robert Kennedy Jr., is demanding that medical schools teach nutrition. I mean, come on. This is how far we got to go. This is where we are. They don't teach nutrition to doctors because, after all, there's no money for doctors in prescribing apples. They're there to make us better through their program. There's no money for doctors if we're well. My back is hurting. I'm thinking, maybe I need to go to the doctor. Nah, not. This is not an organic issue. This is something else. And I thought about it because it hurt every day. And why I didn't worry about going to the doctor was after I got up and moved around, the pain went away. So I knew it was not mission critical, but it hurt. I didn't like it. I kept thinking about it and working. Why is my back hurting? Well, you know what? I see myself as being under a lot of pressure, a lot of weight, a lot of, I got the businesses, family life, politics, spiritual issues, all this stuff's going on. And man, I'm working. And you can see I'm not a spring chicken. I'm working harder and stronger with more vigor and vitality than any time in my entire life. I'm thinking, ooh, that's a lot. It's a heavy weight to carry. Heavy weight, baby. And then I said, let go and let God. Let go and let God. Let go and let God. That's why I read Psalm 91. What a great line. Because he loves me, says the Lord, I will rescue him. I will protect him. For he, that be me, acknowledges my name. Yes, I do. Right here in front of you. He will call on me. Yes, I do. And I will answer him. Yes, he does. I will be with him in trouble. And baby, I got troubles. There's no being good without troubles. That's why it says, if you're lukewarm, God will spit you out. Think about that if you're not yet in the game. You'd be a good person, not in the game. Hey, that's kind of lukewarm, isn't it? And then God says, I will deliver him and honor him. Well, that sounds like a nice promise. With long life, I will satisfy him and show him my salvation. Let go and let God. And guess what? My back's not hurting anymore. Praise God forevermore. So in the Middle East, this peace is, banging around out there because President Trump, he's a business person. You know what business is? Tanner, do you know how I define? I've never told you this. You know what business is?
Providing a service for someone?
No.
Hmm.
No. I'm talking about what is the life of a business person.
Oh, okay.
Okay. What a business does, let me clarify. What a business does is we provide value.
Yeah.
What does a businessman do?
I don't know. You tell me.
Get up every day and solve problems.
Oh, problem solver.
That's what we got to do.
Yeah.
And here, President Trump's got billions and billions of dollars of business. This guy gets up every day and he solved problems his entire life. His entire life. So he gets into the White House and they bring him these issues. Well, see, they brought the last guy an issue, and you know what he said? Let's stir this pot. Let's figure out how we can raise money off of this thing. Let's never solve these problems. And I'm talking about both parties, okay? Like gun control or gun rights. That's not going to get solved. Man, what a moneymaker. Abortion or a woman's right to choose. What a money rate. These people, there's giant industries of people that work for these nonprofit organizations. They're nonprofits. Oh, they're nonprofits. Nonprofits. Yet the guy that's running the nonprofits making $500,000 a year running a nonprofit. What a friggin' scam that is. Woo! Woo! You know, if I was your age, I think I'd get into the nonprofit business.
Yeah, seriously. I think I thought the exact same thing when we found out that 11% of Minnesota's tax budget is put towards immigrants. That was when I was like, these NGOs
Immigrants? No, that they would be called illegal immigrants.
specifically illegal.
Illegal immigrants.
See, that blows me away even more.
11%.
I thought we were just talking immigrants in
the
general.
20 sanctuary counties that the Trump administration named as sanctuary counties here in Minnesota, which a couple of these counties like Wright said, oh, not us, not us.
Yeah.
I never saw it reversed, Dustin Gragey or Marion Rarick. Never saw it reversed. Never saw an official declaration from the administration that Wright County's not a sanctuary county. I get it. Maybe it's not. Could have been a mistake. I get it. But I never saw it reversed. If you can show me where it was reversed, hey, get in touch with me. Marion, I'd love to have you on the show. Be great. You know, bring the receipts because I'm not closed-minded about this stuff. I'm looking for information. But those 20 sanctuary counties, this I looked up myself. And with a disclaimer, it's just me doing the research. I can make a mistake. But after painstaking research, it looked to me like 11% of the budgets of these 20 counties, we're talking big money now, billions. 20%, these 20 counties, 11% of their budgets go to health care and education of illegal immigrants living in Minnesota.
And that's pretty much all NGOs, right?
A lot of NGOs are in there getting funded for it, but the counties themselves, I mean, funding education. You know, you got people that don't speak English going to your schools.
Yeah.
You know, somebody's got to pay to take care of, somebody's got to get paid to take care of that. The health care. I mean, that of course, it's an estimate, but that population is estimated to be X and educating and housing and feeding and health care for these individuals that are involved with government services. 11% of our county budgets, which means it's a business. So that's another thing. Government is a business. I remember my mom telling me government's not a business. What a scam. It's a business. And why do I know? Because a lot of people making money off of government.
Yeah.
Right?
It's true.
I mean,
Yeah.
if it was all volunteer like me, it would be a hobby. I'm a political hobbyist. I'm not getting paid for being involved in politics. If you're in the Republican Party of Minnesota and you're an officer, anybody paying you to go to these BPOU meetings? 100 people in this room up there in Hubbard County. Nobody got paid for being there.
Yeah.
You know?
So your mom's, she's right, but not. She's saying right now the government's not a business, but she's right because we shouldn't be a business.
No, what
right?
she's trying to say to me is we can't run the government like it's a business because business is profit seeking. You see, she's a Marxist. She doesn't see business as providing a service. She sees businesses extracting wealth for rich people and manipulating the customers. And that's not what we do at Target.com. At Target.com, where I sell tires to you to fund this thing, if you come there, hey, let me tell you how that goes down. You get a great deal. You get great customer service. The price is right. The service is right. And if anything goes wrong, it's on me and not you. That's not called rent seeking. That means providing a service, a legitimate service. My mother doesn't believe people do that because she's a Marxist. I get it. I get it. Like Robin Wansley down in Minneapolis, the Democratic Socialists. They think the government needs to run all the businesses because they're so much better at providing honest service. When you actually think about it, we could all take a moment and just laugh. It's kind of hilarious.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess if you're young, it sounds good. When you've been down the road like me, some of this stuff is actually entertaining. Please play number 1.
Hi, can I ask you a question?
Yes, sure.
How would you react to Netanyahu's statement that the Jewish people are not occupiers in their own land, including in the eternal capital, Jerusalem?
Let me be clear. God is eternal. His word is eternal, and so are the Jewish people. Judaism forbids Zionism. The Jewish people never ever sought to gain sovereignty of the Holy Land till the Zionist, godless founders hijacked our name. But it was never us. Our grandparents lived in the Holy Land in peace with their Arabic neighbors. They were friends and colleagues. Zionists wanted to create a Jewish nationality and destroyed it all to achieve it. Netanyahu, you do not represent us.
Thanks for the message.
Oh, my personal feeling about that is it seemed a little staged to me.
Yeah.
Seemed a little staged.
Yeah, that feels pretty staged.
However, the message
It's the same.
is what they wanted to deliver. And as we talk about Middle East peace, we talk a lot about the woke mind virus. That's a big deal for Elon Musk, right? The woke mind virus.
I
You've
haven't
heard
been
about that,
listening.
right?
No.
Well, being woke, Elon Musk considers it to be an illness caused by a virus. It's a sickness, a sickness.
Yeah.
And what this very religious, Orthodox Jewish man is saying, and these are the kind of people I grew up, they were in my life, prayed with them. He's saying Zionism is kind of a mind virus. Hijacked the Jewish people, hijacked the identity of the Jewish people, but the Jewish people, not the Zionists, the Jewish people are completely dedicated to peace, the concept of bringing peace on earth. Why? Because they're jacked into the Most High God. And God doesn't want us slaughtering each other. He wants us living in peace. He wants to give us prosperity. He wants to give us well-being. It's not God caused this thing. It's man. Obvious, right? Not to everybody. A lot of people think differently on these issues. That's why we do the podcast. That's why we're getting organized politically. But that's a great predicate to understand that there are millions of Jewish people, for those of you who are anti-Semitic, that are trying to live in this country, assimilate into this country, live quiet lives of contemplation in this country. They're not trying to get rich. They're not trying to dominate media. They're not trying to dominate the universities. They're not trying to shield for Israel here in the country. They just want to be Republicans. They want to be citizen sovereigns. They want their minority rights protected. They do participate in civic life. They vote. They're organized. They protect their own community. I mean, this is what it is. So please, when you're contemplating, murder and genocide against people that you think have destroyed the world, let's be discriminating about what you're saying and what you're thinking. Let's not be killing the innocent, all right? I'm not saying there are people, let's not be killing anybody. But I'm not saying there are people, let me say this again, lest my words be clipped out by somebody and misused. I'm not advocating violence against anybody, and I'm certainly not advocating violence against Zionists. But I am saying that there is a wide disparity of views within the Jewish community, just like there is within the Muslim community. That's why this episode is BURQAS and Bibles. There's a lot of Muslims that have come to this country. They're not wearing burqas. They're doctors. They're not practicing traditional, strict Islam. They have modified over time. They're integrating into American society. Now, this Jewish man on the street, he's not integrating. He's maintaining a different kind of costuming, different language, different beliefs. But what he's saying is, I'm not working against the United States interests. I'm not working for war. And he's kind of an America firster if you really want to extrapolate what might come out of his mouth next. So my point in saying this is we got to become much more thoughtful as a community. And that happens when we all link together on X and share ideas one with another. I'm going to tell you, I'm on X. Most of the time, people don't want to engage with me. And when they do, they get their ass whipped. Sometimes I don't engage with people because they're looking for a fight. There's a kid that's following me. He always wants me to engage with him. I get it. Hey, he's just looking for a fight. I'm not looking for a fight. I'm actually looking for unity. So I don't wade out into this thing for a fight. I'm wading out to create a community of Republicans that are politically potent. And I'm saying on today's tactic is we got to get much better at creating our digital connections. But, sometimes I'm on X and somebody will say something and I'll withdraw. I'll say, man, that's a good point. I need to think about this. I think I was wrong. And if you can't say you're wrong, you're an ideologue. And ideologues are dangerous. Let me play a little of that for you. Let's look at number 2.
Well, Mazel Tov, it seems like you've freed Palestine. This is why the Israelis have been saying free Palestine from Hamas, because they are an actual terrorist organization that doesn't only terrorize Israel, but terrorizes their own people. This is just the beginning of your free Palestine. Good job, guys.
Okay, now, this woman, she's not random. She's beautiful. I don't believe the wedding ring on her finger. I don't believe anything about her. Because what we got going on now is the end of mass killing here in Gaza by the Israeli IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, on these relatively, they're under-resourced. I mean, when you're taking an F-35 up against a guy with an RPG, it doesn't go very well. Remember when President Biden said, if there's a revolution here in the United States, and we got all these right-wingers with guns. He actually said, hey, we got F-16s and nuclear weapons.
Nice. Oh,
That's
thanks.
what President Biden said.
Of course.
So when you go to war, I mean, the point of having superior technology is so the guy you're fighting can't kill you. It's not supposed to be a fair fight. You want to say the guy bought a pocket knife to a gunfight? That's what that was over there in the Gaza Strip. And now it's over, okay, temporarily or maybe forever. I don't know. And here's what the play is. Israel's reputation worldwide is so badly tarnished. And of course, the reputation of Jews, because the identity of Jews has been confounded with the idea of Israel, because it's the Jewish homeland, even though this man's on the street saying, it has nothing to do with me, folks. You got this wrong. My identity has been hijacked. And that's funny because I was listening to Royce White say that 4 years ago about the hijacking of the Jewish identity, the black identity, the identity of women. Our identities have been hijacked because it's an info war, propaganda war. So here's this really good-looking girl. She's good-looking. Don't you think she's good-looking? I thought she was good-looking.
Devil wears a dress. So.
Oh, the devil's got the blue dress on. Okay, great. So Tanner's getting us into the deep water here now. And my point is she's probably on the payroll of somebody. I wouldn't want to trace that money back because those kind of investigations can get you clipped. And what she's saying is, oh, good job, guys. Because here's what they're going to do now. Hamas is still there. They're dragging people that cooperated with the Israelis out in the street and shooting them. I mean, I don't know how many operatives Israel has in that Palestinian cohort, but it's thousands, if not tens of thousands. And so, of course, there's going to be a civil war now, a settling of scores in the Palestinian community as a reality of this war. And that's no different than what happened here in the United States after World War II. Traitors got convicted and imprisoned. We played a piece several podcasts ago about a Japanese woman, Tokyo Rose, born in America, trapped in Japan. They put her on the radio. She broadcast American troops, and after the war, she was imprisoned. And then later, downrange, she got pardoned. I think by Gerald Ford, President Ford pardoned her, I think, if memory serves correct. But see, when you're not living in a Republican form of governance, where the rights of minorities are protected, even if they're in jail. They've had due process, even if the due process was flawed, as it was in Tokyo Rose's case. Downstream, she got pardoned. Hey, there's no pardon for that guy that got shot in the street. He's dead, because those folks are not Republicans, okay? They're not living in a Republican framework. So the way they settle that over there is, hey, we're going to kill you and you're dead. Boom. So this woman is out there saying, look at these Palestinians. They're animals. Good job, guys. Good job making fun of us. And here's what's going to happen. The Israelis are going to arm different factions in the Palestinian community, different tribes, different groups. There's going to be an internecine civil war in that Palestinian community. And we're going to see clip after clip of these people killing each other. The goal being to say Jews are good, Palestinians are animals. Because right now, a great effort's going to be made to rehabilitate the Jewish identity, because it has really fallen from grace with the sea. For example, Israel has ponied up $4.1 million to run a propaganda campaign targeting American Christians. How about that?
I heard about that. I heard that they were even at like Christian events, they were tracking cell phones to then be able to know who was a Christian.
4.1 million for a propaganda campaign that will target American evangelical Christians, a project that is being sold as, quote unquote, the largest Christian church geofencing campaign in U.S. history. Apropos to what you said, the largest Christian church geofencing campaign in U.S. history. They started a company, a pop-up entity, Show Faith by Works. Expects to receive $3.25 million from the Israeli Foreign Ministry over a 5-month period, which includes a potential additional $835,000 for equipment and expansion of the campaign. The document, which was filed on September 27th, says one of the activities of the campaign will be to combat low American evangelical Christian approval of the nation of Israel. Infowar, Palestinians must die. Okay, BURQAS. BURQAS and Bibles. That's what we're talking about today. In Sweden, you know what I think of when I think of Sweden? Beautiful, blue-eyed, blonde-haired women.
Yeah.
Because, see, in my generation, when we popped up into consciousness in the 60s and 70s, guess what was holding sway? Hugh Hefner and Playboy.
Oh, yeah.
And boy, Hugh really liked to feature the Swedish bombshells. Love that. So that's what I think when I think of Sweden. Beautiful, white, blonde-haired, blue-eyed women.
You ever heard of PewDiePie?
Who?
PewDiePie? When I think of Sweden, I think of a man named PewDiePie. He was one of the biggest YouTube content creators in the early days.
Great. I missed it.
You missed him. He was
Probably,
huge. I'm
probably
surprised you
this
don't
is
know him.
before Royce looked at me and said, man, do you know what we could do with a podcast studio?
That's right.
Royce,
That's
what's
right.
a podcast? Remember, for those of you that are out there, the reason I'm doing this is for freedom and for faith. I'm not interested in anything else other than maintaining my freedom and my ability to worship God. And I know that's exactly what my opponents seek to take from me. And I'm just going to do a sidebar on that, okay? Republicanism is a very hopeful and beautiful philosophy. It believes in the sovereignty of each citizen, and it stands on a 5,700-year tradition of faith, the idea being that if you have faith, you're self-governing, and that human beings can give up their addiction to sin and love one another as Christ identified one of the two great commandments. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your might, all your soul, and love your neighbor as you wish to be loved. The two, he distilled the entire Old Testament down to 2 sentences, kind of like George Carlin. George Carlin did the same thing. The comedian George Carlin. See, you're too old for George Carlin.
Too young. Yeah. No, I don't know.
Excuse me, you're too young. We played it on here. We'll play it again.
I think I can see the face. I think I know
George
who you're talking
Carlin
about.
took the 10 commandments down to 2 commandments. Jesus Christ did the same thing. There's 2 great commandments. And republicanism is built on that commandment that says you're going to love your neighbor as you wish to be loved. Communal good. That we're capable of that and that we're going to do it. That's why our founding fathers said it's a republic as long as you can keep it. Now, the liberal philosophy came forth And that's all about me, 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 me. It's about what's in it for me. What do I get out of the deal? So we've devolved from republicanism to liberalism, which then slides down into Marxism. And what does Marxism say? There is no God. That's an illusion. Like Freud, the future of an illusion. Like Marx, religion is the opiate of the masses. The Marxist believes that human beings are not fallen. The Marxists believe that there's no God to fall from, that human beings suck and must be governed so that we have a sustainable, the word sustainable, political organization where everybody has the same thing, that there's no differences. It's a dark philosophy that does not admit the potential ascendancy of the human soul. Gives up on humanity. Marxism says humans suck. And you know why we know that? The evidence thereof is because wherever Marxism takes hold, they kill millions of people because they're just disposable, consumers, eaters. You know what? Clip them out. They're a problem. Drag them out in the public square. Shoot them. Because, hey, you know what? They don't have any rights because they're not human beings. In the way I think about it, a child of God. They don't have that orientation. So in Sweden, I think of that as a very blue-eyed, blonde-haired, white place. I'm not saying that it is. It's become multicultural, like all the rest of the countries in the world, because we've been living under a regime of immigration. And the Swedes, hey, guess what? They feel a little pressured by this. So Sweden's Deputy Prime Minister Bush has called for a nationwide ban on burqas in all public places, saying that the country must wake up from its naivete about Islamism and act decisively to protect Swedish values and social cohesion. Sounds like some of the Republicans here in Minnesota. Going on, she argued that the burqa is a symbol of strict interpretation of Islam, which is most often seen in totalitarian states. She described this as incompatible with Swedish society. Quote, Islam must adapt in Sweden. You can be a proud Swedish Muslim, a proud Swedish Christian, a Jew or an atheist. But there are fundamental Swedish values that we must apply to all. She cited estimates that around 250,000 young people in Sweden, live under conditions similar to honor oppression, and said nearly 70,000 women in the country have undergone female genital mutilation. Wow. It has gone too far already, and it will take a long time to reverse this. Then we also need to keep the issue of the burqa clearly on the agenda and ban it while we still can. I read all this for one short phrase. It will take a long time to reverse this. How do we reverse it? Well, I know there's a lot of Republicans, and I read it all the time on X. If they're Muslim, deport them, even if they're citizens. Islam is not compatible with America's Constitution. Interesting, isn't it? Well, let me tell you about the Jewish people. Something I know about very well. Because there's guys walking around on the streets. They didn't assimilate. Guys walking in a strange costume, got a strange hat on. He's got payout, the little side locks. It's in the Bible.
What do you call those?
Payout. Payas.
Payas?
Yeah, they're you just don't cut those.
Okay. I never knew there was a word for it.
There's a word for it. Don't cut your beard. Can't cut your beard because you don't put a knife on your face, right? Because when the knife goes to the face, generally speaking, blood's going to get spilled. So let's just have the beard. Anyhow, there's many other reasons for that. That's one I like. Just like I like chopsticks made out of wood. Because, a fork and a knife, hey, you get pissed off, use that fork, stick it right in somebody's chest at the dinner table. Hard to kill someone with a chopstick. Although I'm sure there's Chinese masters that can get the job done.
Grab you by a pressure point with it.
Right, put you down. But there's one line in here I think is very important. it will take a long time to reverse this. Uh, I'm not quite sure how many Christians are in the country. 180 million, I read, 220 million. And of those, it's easy to say, I believe in Christ. What are you willing to do in your personal life to actually follow what Christ tells you to do? That's a short line. But I mean, just people that say they're Christians, like a couple 100 million people, there's 4 to 5 million Muslims in the country. And we got Islamophobia running rampant. If you get involved in politics, the Somalis have taken over Minneapolis politics. This Omar Fattah here, if you're not in Minnesota, we got a Democrat socialist, Omar Fattah, is a Somali. He's probably going to win the mayor race in Minneapolis. And the Somalis got organized. They came over here. They said, "Man, we're a minority group. We got to get our share of the pie." They figured it out. They read the precinct strategy in their own way. They analyzed how things work. They went into the Democratic Party. They took it over. In fact, the Democrats are pulling the fire alarm. Precarious state. We just played it. They're freaked out.
Yeah, and they're posting up on the news and everything.
They can't. They've lost control. There's a Frankenstein that they can no longer control. But it will take a long time to reverse this. And how it reversed. Talk about the Jewish people. We got Jewish people that have maintained the old ways. I was in that group, and I left. And why did I leave? I left for 2 reasons. One, when I got sick, they didn't have any answers for me, which pissed me off. Rabbi, I'm sick. Can you help me? A book in Yiddish. Do what your doctor says. I didn't need to ask. I didn't need to pray 3 times a day for that. I'm praying 3 times a day. Guess what for? I will be with him in trouble. I will deliver him and honor him. With long life, I will satisfy him and show him my salvation. And I couldn't get that from those dudes. So I had to break off and find it somewhere else because I was dying. That's one reason. The other reason was my grandmother looked at me one day and she said, "My son, you're in America. Be an American." Which was a lot for her to say because, hey, you know what? Where she came from, that was not something she could do very easily. But she wanted me to be part of America. So while I'm still a Jewish American, I'm thoroughly committed to this country. I'm thoroughly committed to this Constitution. I'm involved in politics, and my Jewishness is for me. It's not something I'm trying to spread to you or anybody else. It's about who I am. It's about my identity. But why? The only reason you know my identity is I'm sitting here talking to you. Otherwise, I don't bring it up. It's not relevant to being an American for me. What's relevant is my knowledge of the founding documents and my commitment to republicanism. I am a sovereign of my own life. I self-govern as much as I can. I do believe in protecting minority rights. That's why I'm talking about burqas and Bibles. I am involved in civic life. I mean, I am very committed to the process, and I do believe in the common good. I think that we have gone really off the road with this income inequality, and I think that's why our young people are becoming communists. Communism is always a wrecking ball when there's this kind of inequality. So I'm committed to those things. I'm committed to sovereignty of each citizen. I'm committed to protecting minority rights. I do believe that we have to have an equitable and just society in the common good, a religious concept. And I do believe that I must believe and be involved in politics. I'm a Republican. So it will take a long time to reverse this. And if you want to reverse it without violating the Constitution, okay, here's where the rubber hits the road. If we don't have the Constitution as a rally point in this country, well, then it's going to be whoever takes power is going to be what it's going to be. We have a constitutional republic. We rely on that as the rule book. It does evolve over time, but I do not see it as constitutional to round up millions of people and then deport them simply because they have a different faith than Christianity. Because if you're going to start with the Muslims, you're really kind of starting in the wrong place, aren't you? They don't have very much power here. I mean, if you're really going to start deporting people, why aren't you starting with the Jews? How about the Chinese? They got a lot of power, and we're kind of at conflict with their country. Do we trust them? Not really. We know there's a lot of spies over here. Let's just round up all the Chinese citizens and deport them. Just like that. Bang. There could be Chinese people here or Jewish people here or Muslim people here. They lied to become citizens. their citizenship is invalid from that. They're not really citizens because they lie. And just here in Minneapolis, the U.S. government just, I think, indicted 250 people for immigration fraud. They're citizens, but they lied to get that citizenship. Okay, bye-bye. We can't have a Republican form of governance when we lie to each other. That's why I'm always talking about the search for truth. The search for truth is so important. So the people that are liars, hey, we're not going to be lying and have a good country. We're not going to be lying and be good, faithful stewards of our community. Look at all the fraud in Minnesota. You know, that can only happen when we live in a culture of lies, where people are liars. That's why I'm holding my elected officials accountable when they lie. If we disagree, hey, I'm not going to hold them accountable for disagreeing with me. I'm going to listen to their opinion. I might learn something. But when it says it's going to take a long time to reverse this, if you get involved in politics, I mean, really get involved, and you really spread the philosophy of republicanism, we only have a 200 million person head start. These people are not going to be able to destroy our country. We will destroy our country through our inactivity. And look around you. Isn't that what we have going on? Well, as a matter of fact, yes, it is. Could you please play number 3, Tanner?
Such a hallmark of tyrannical, autocratic dictatorship societies that they use the prosecutorial department as a political weapon. It is a disgrace, and every American, I don't care if you're Democrat, Republican, liberal, conservative, moderate, people should be forcefully rising up against this.
That's Senator Chuck Schumer, and it reminded me when I was looking for this clip this morning of the Reverend Kenneth Hagin, and he said, don't be gossiping about people. And he said, told a beautiful story. He said about a person in his congregation that was a murderer and was convicted for murder. And I mean, what do you say about a murderer? I mean, the guy's a scumbag, right?
Yeah.
And you know what Kenneth Hagin said? He said, you know what? No reason to say that. You know what I say about him? He sure had pretty blue eyes. And that's how I feel about Chuck Schumer. He sure has nice looking skin for a man 75 years old. And, you know, I'd like to leave it at that, but I'm going to leave it at that with a comment. This is the Senate Minority Leader talking about a forceful uprising. I mean, this is really an incitement to violence from the very top Democrat in the Senate. And he's talking about how the Trump administration is weaponizing the Justice Department. Sorry, Senator Schumer, it was weaponized. I remember, did I ever tell you before the last election, I was getting worried that if Kamala Harris won, it was jail time for Professor Penn?
Really?
Yeah, because, man, these people, they're tyrannical. Cancel culture was created by these liberal progressives, Marxists, as a nuclear option against their political opponents. They used it without hesitation, and payback's a bitch, isn't it now, Chucky? Very, very tough on you. The Justice Department has been weaponized at least since President Nixon. And people are going to go, what? You got to go back and study Watergate carefully. And there's scholarship done on how Nixon got hammered by the security state and how he was taken down by the Justice Department. And they violated but they violated so many rules in the investigation of Watergate and in the prosecution of those people that it was a weaponized Justice Department in 1973. Nixon knew it. A lot of people knew it. It's just that at that time in 73, guess what? What's the difference between 73 and 2025? The number one difference.
Technology?
3 broadcast networks.
Mm.
That was it. ABC, CBS, NBC. No digital media, no social media. You wanted to get the word out? You had to write a book and hope people bought it. If you wanted to talk to people, you went down to the street corner with a soapbox and got up and started ranting. The security state had so much control of the narrative at that time, they could take a president and run him out of Dodge. And everybody thought he was a scumbag because they had complete control of that. And, you know, Nixon was kind of a disheartening character. But what he got run out of town for, compared to what they've done to Trump and Bannon and Navarro and a whole list of people, down to the January 6 people, we're talking about universes of difference. But hey, you know what? If we don't do our homework, we don't know about it. But here's the Senate Minority Leader calling for a forceful uprising. Meanwhile, LA County, Los Angeles County, has declared a state of emergency over the ongoing ICE raids and will provide rent and relief for tenants who have fallen behind on their payments as a result of the enforcement actions targeting people living in the United States illegally. The government of Los Angeles, to blunt the Trump administration's efforts, is going to pay for the housing of illegals that can't pay the bill. And why can't they pay the bill? Well, you know what? I have business in California. I'm going to tell you what happened. When this started, because here's what happens if you own a business. Prove to me you're a citizen. Here's my social security number. Good enough for me. They're not really here legally. You know, social security numbers are for sale. So they're working in the business, and then here comes ICE, and you got 10 people working in your shop on Friday, but on Monday, only 5 people show up because they don't want to get picked up. They disappear into the woodwork. Those people are no longer earning money, and so they have no place to live. LA is housing them. This reminds me of 1860. Same people, same problem. We got Democrats with a monetizable population of under-resourced newcomers, mostly brown-skinned, who they are monetizing and using as a weapon against the Trump administration. The Trump administration, Republicans, allegedly, a la Abraham Lincoln, trying to liberate the country from a system of a neo-slavery system, neo-slavery. Now, I wonder what the result's going to be of this. You know those black people that were brought here over a couple hundred years of chattel slavery? They didn't want to be here. They did not want to be here. They were brought in chains. So when the war ended in 65, they were granted citizenship. The difference that is being used here is that these brown-skinned people were not brought here. They came consensually and walked across our border illegally, and that's why they must be deported. So there is a difference. I get it. But the structure of this thing, spiritually, philosophically, politically, is exactly the same as the Civil War period, which means what? The Civil War never ended. It's the same parties fighting over the same issues, and guess where we are? The Mexican cartels are placing bounties on federal agents. Well, that sounds like a civil war, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The Department of Homeland Security said on October 14th, if we can believe them, that it has obtained credible intelligence that cartels in Mexico have placed bounties on U.S. law enforcement. Intelligence gathering or doxing of federal agents, including taking photos and gathering information, you'll receive a payout of $2,000. If you kidnap or other non-lethal assaults on ICE agents, you get paid $10,000. And if you cap somebody, it's 50 G's. Well, that's going to encourage some violence.
Yeah.
Man, you can get killed for $500, 50 grand for killing an ICE agent. That's the world you and I are living in. But of course, this doesn't exist. We're going to play this again. Please play number 4 again.
There's no Antifa. This is an entirely imaginary organization. There is not an Antifa.
Like, I don't even know what Antifa is. There is no group.
It's not even like far-right groups like the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers. Compared to right-wing extremists, Antifa-linked violence is rare and limited.
It isn't an organization. It is in many ways mythology.
It's not like the Proud Boys or the Oath Keepers, sort of defined terrorist organizations with leadership that leads violence.
It's not a highly organized movement. It's a moniker. It's not a unified group like the Proud Boys are.
Things like Antifa are things that are thought up.
It's all in this guise of going after Antifa, which is nothing. There's no organization called Antifa.
Nobody's a member of Antifa because it doesn't exist. They are just declaring into existence something that doesn't exist.
There is no Antifa organization, so maybe that's good for social media, but it really is non-existent.
They exist on the internet in chat rooms and in 4chan and Discord and places like that, where they run discussion boards, trade tactics, documents, things like that. But none of them are called Antifa.
Well, that seems rather organized, doesn't it sound? Doesn't it sound like that's an organized script to you?
Yeah.
Crazy. You know, when you see those clips put together, remember that when I see them or when you see them, you see one person doing that. And it sounds very credible. And those people that have media positions that we recognize there, they're credible to a lot of folks. But when you put them all up on the screen, all in one display like that, it seems rather scripted. You go, well, how could it be scripted? I mean, who's coordinating this? Well, let me tell you, the Trump administration is doing some research and following the money. And information was released that in the last year, domestic extremists and civil unrest advocates through NGOs and organizations received $61 million. Arabella, Buffett, Ford, Rockefeller, Soros, Tides, pro-Hamas and radical Islam organizations, $98 million. Buffett, Ford, Rockefeller, Soros, Tides again. A lot of money is financing this.
Is that Ford, like Ford Motors?
The Ford Foundation.
Oh, okay.
Where that money came from is from Ford Motors. But now,
really,
you know, when you start a foundation, like the Rockefeller Foundation, Rockefeller stuck that money in there, and he had some goals that he wanted to achieve, like population reduction.
Mm.
Okay? And then those folks went about doing that. And, you know, when you put huge money in a pot and then invest it in the stock market, these people there's the corpus of the foundation, the donation, and then that corpus, that seed money gets interest or a return on investment because it's invested in the stock market. So if you put billions of dollars in the stock market through a foundation, you're getting hundreds of millions of dollars of profit back every year. You never spend the original money. You just spend what you take in off of investments.
Mm. Lovely.
A forever pot that gets stirred by whoever wants to stir it. Crazy. The same people, those media people who told you Biden was sharp as a tack, that COVID came from nature, and that there was no southern border crisis. Remember, there was no crisis at the border? Remember that?
Yeah.
There's no inflation. No problem. And Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian disinformation. That's those people.
Yeah.
Another narrative to see if we're paying attention. There's so much news and things that I want to talk about that tie into your political activism. And part of your political activism is you got to know what's going on so you can talk to people. But I'm going to just share one thing with you that is interesting for me before we get into some Minnesota politics. Shares of Michelin tank on guidance cut after North American market slump. Michelin. Now we're going to talk Target, something I really know about, something I'm up on. The shares, the value of Michelin is in decline. And why is that? Well, I'm going to tell you why. When I was a kid, the 70s, when I first started in the tire business, we were in the process of what was called radialization. So you've never ever heard of anything but a steel-belted radial, right? But before steel-belted radials, there was something else called biased tires. They didn't last very long.
Okay.
They weren't very good. Okay? And then there was a company in France, Michelin, that came up with an idea of a steel-belted radial technology. And they were the first ones to bring it out. So, you know, this was about going to a gunfight with a pocket knife. These bias ply tires were lasting, I don't know, 10,000 miles. They come up with a radial that's lasting 40,000 miles. 4 times? Man, that's worth a lot more money. And a lot safer, stopped faster, better in the snow, better in the rain, better all the way around, better radial tires. And see, Michelin got a jump on everybody. And then the other factories, Goodyear and Bridgestone, they all figured it out because somebody went first. Just like we got the nuclear bomb first. Fat Boy, Los Alamos. Well, there's lots of countries that have nuclear bombs now. Man, you probably could find out the prescription for building a nuclear bomb on the internet if you come up with the money to put it together.
Yeah.
Now it's not a technology issue, it's a money issue. Well, Michelin's tanking. Why is it tanking? Well, the North American market is slumping. Why is Michelin slumping? Well, I'm going to tell you right now. I sell a tire on TireGet, a low-cost tire. It's called Vantage. It's an imported tire. Now, you know we believe in American manufacturing, but the difference in price is it's a third of the price of a Michelin tire. And so here's what you're going to think. It must not be any good. You know, nuclear bomb built in Pakistan will kill you just the same as a nuclear bomb built in Russia. They're both nuclear bombs. See, after all this time, Michelin's great advantage and Bridgestone's great advantage has been blunted because the Chinese tire manufacturers have figured out the technology and they can build these tires way less money and deliver the same quality for a third of the price. Tanner went through that on his car. I sold him something. And you know why Tanner bought those tires? And we talked about it. I mean, you go to the website, there's a lot of American-made tires on there. And if you can afford to spend 2 to 3 times as much money, I'm going to tell you to do it because I want to support America. That's why I have that. That's why those major brand tires are on there, to give you an option to buy those tires because I want to sell. I'm a reformed globalist. I want to sell American-made products. But guess what? Tanner can't afford to spend $140 for a tire that he can buy for $35, right?
Yeah.
You got great tires.
Yeah, I love the tires I have.
They're working fine, right?
Yeah.
Okay. It's not that he wants to. I bet if you said, well, this tire is imported for $50 and this tire is made in South Carolina for $60, I bet I can get him to pay an extra $40 a set to buy a tire built in the United States. But when this tire is $40 and it's built in Asia, and this tire is $200 and it's built in South Carolina, hey, if you can afford it, do it. Call me. I want you to do it. But if you can't afford it, and when you have this kind of inflationary spiral that's going on, it's forcing people in every business down the value chain into the lowest cost products. It's called substitution because they can't afford that premium American-made product. And that's why there's tariffs. But even with the tariffs, it's 2 to 3 times more for a domestically manufactured tire. So we have very good tires, and they're imported. And I have to sell them because if I only had the American brand on there, nobody'd buy tires from me. I mean, some people would, but we'd lose 2/3 to maybe 80% of the customers. Not because you as a patriot, as an American, don't want to buy American. You can't afford it. And that's what President Trump is trying to change. And it's like there's 8,000 holes in the dike, and he's got 10 toes and 10 fingers. That's how screwed up this is. And we got people fighting him on the few things he's trying to do, like putting on tariffs to start to stem the flow of this bleed out of the American economy. This thing was set up years ago with the intention of hooking you and hooking me on price so that we would stop buying American, so we would start importing, so we would have one world economy that leads to one world government. The people that put this together knew exactly what they were doing. They used greed, the greed of people like me, business people, to undercut the market, to create the conditions where the country failed. There was no accident about it. And here we are stuck trying to change this. We're going to have to work together to change it, and it's bad. Please play number 5.
I don't know how it will play out in November, but what we know is that we will end up with many more unemployed, and particularly also people in the gray economy, which are not counted for, who lose their jobs. So we will see definitively a lot of anger already now, but probably increase by the end of the year, because this crisis will be with us until we really have found a remedy. So we have to prepare for a more angry world. And how to prepare? It means to take the necessary action to create a fairer world, to see that we provide everybody with decent access to the health system, that we make sure that those people who are really left behind, and I'm not speaking only on national levels, I'm speaking also internationally. If I see now the tragedy in some of the emerging countries like South Africa, like some countries in East Asia, I think it's all, I don't have too many remedies. The remedies have to be discussed through dialogue by the stakeholders of our global system, but I just see the need for such a dialogue, and I see the need for action. I see the need for a great reset.
Thank you, Tanner. That's Klaus Schwab talking about the angrier world that we're living in. And he's talking about crisis, reaction, solution. The crisis is, right now, inflation, which was caused by governments through money printing. The reaction is an angrier world. We need a solution. We need a solution. That's worldwide communism in a digital prison, so when people are angry, they can't hurt anybody else. A third of countries in this world are plagued by abnormally high food prices. So we got abnormally high tire prices, but there's no substitution on food. You can't go from a Michelin down to an imported tire when you're talking about food. And when the food prices get high enough, like they are right now, you have tremendous social unrest. When food inflation outpaces income growth, a countdown clock emerges which tracks the timeline to social instability. This happens throughout history. It's not if, it's when this will happen. And to say that it's happening by accident is very, very ultra naive. It's very ultra naive. This is all on purpose. It's all part of a plan. He's looking for the Great Reset. Cause a crisis. The reaction is people are going bananas. And then the solution is jail them in a digital prison for their own good. And hey, along the way, if you can clip a bunch of them out, great. California makes euthanasia laws permanent for the terminally ill. That's called the camel getting his nose under the tent. Got to start somewhere. Got to start somewhere. Once we get this euthanasia thing really well distributed, anybody that wants to give up is going to be able to go kill themselves. Isn't that great? And then you got politicians like Andrew Myers right here in 45, who's part of this progressive movement but calls himself a Republican, wants artificial intelligence to decide who can have a gun and who can't have a gun. And this guy is a Republican, and the people in my district support him. And Andrew, I know you're going to hear this. You better fly right, brother, or your career is coming to an end. And you see now, Minnesota Republicans or Kentucky Republicans or Wyoming Republicans, when we get these people and we elect them, and they get out there and we find out they're professionals and they're catering to the leftists that are Marxists that want to put me in that digital prison through this crisis reaction solution model, and he's aligning with these people, he's not a Republican. He just says that he is. That's what we call them, rhinos. Republicans in name only. How apt. But we never really realized that what they're really doing is helping the Marxist agenda. This son of a bitch is actually saying that artificial intelligence should be deployed to police the citizens. I can't think of a more vile idea coming from the mouth of a Republican. Of course, we just played President Trump talking about digital ID at the United Nations in very glowing terms. Okay, I can't affect President Trump, but Andrew Myers is in my district, and if he doesn't knock it off, I can't affect him, and he knows it. And that's how we do politics locally. We deal with the issues that when we sit around and talk about President Trump and Scott Bessent and Emmanuel Macron and Benjamin Netanyahu and the Jews are running the world, all you're doing is political pornography. You're jacking off to something you can't affect. Stop it and get involved and make a difference in your neighborhood. And when all of us do that together collectively on a national basis, oh, guess what? At the national level, we're going to change history. But as long as we keep talking about what's happening up there and we don't do anything at home, it's just entertainment, political pornography. Royce White says, don't die a jack off. I agree with him. Andrew, California just banned Glock handguns. Do you know what a Glock is?
Yeah.
Great. Does that seem like a handgun that should get banned?
No.
Well, it is. Because it can
I
be
guess
easily...
the only discussion I could see is because people are making switches for them
That's
commonly
right.
on Glocks, but
that's
that
exactly
can be
what...
done with any other gun.
That's correct. The camel's nose is under the tent.
Yeah.
They're banning handguns. I mean, I thought we were talking about AR-15s. Now we're talking about handguns.
And that's probably why they're specifying Glocks first, because they know that if they came forward and said handguns, people would be like, oh, no, that's too far. But they're saying, oh, it's just Glocks.
Because they can be switched.
Yep.
Right? But any gun can be switched.
Yeah.
Right. So guess what, Andrew? Andrew, your career's over if you keep down this direction. There's a lot of people in your district, 45A, that are ex-police. They don't like you. I know it because I've been organizing them. Let's play number 6 just for fun, and I'll tell you when to stop.
If you're going to make a statement about, the stolen election or something like that, being a pragmatic person, I want to see evidence. So I'm not saying that, the 2020 election was or was not stolen, seen evidence that it was stolen. But I think that the bigger point is that it makes it very important that we have confidence and faith in our elections. And we don't have that right now. Both parties, Hillary Clinton was claiming that, the election was stolen in a previous election. So both sides are claiming, there's election, issues. And I think that we really need to fix as a country. But in my case right here, I'm not saying there's an election stolen. There's election meddling. The baby was killed in the crib. I was never able to retire. I was never able to get out and run. And that's what I really want to walk you through tonight with all these documents.
So, I don't have any personal animus towards Adam Schwartzy. In fact, I will say the guy is a warrior, served this country, and I really do have a lot of respect for that. Adam, if you see this, I've trained with a lot of guys like you, had my ass kicked by guys like you, kicked their ass too, by the way, because, they taught me and then I got better. That's that old line from Star Wars, the student has become the master. Okay. So, I really resonate with your service. What I don't resonate is with bullshit. And the assertion that you're making for people that don't know the facts, that there was a conspiracy or an election interference plan at senior levels to stop you from going to Congress, in my opinion, is laughable. So I'm going to just say there's really, to me, how I hear this, there's 2 options. You're delusional, which would really invalidate you from being a candidate, or you're just lying and telling a story. Because here's the facts, and anybody that thinks about this will know it. There's nobody that's going to risk a felony and go to jail for a first-time political candidate who is not even endorsed by a party. And let me go farther. Nobody's going to election interfere with one of 455 members of Congress. You're talking about a herd of animals, a herd, Congress people. One congressperson cannot change the arc of history. So to say that what happened to you in the military at the end of your career was related to election interference and a conspiracy, I just can't get my brain wrapped around that, brother. I'm really sorry. And I think we as citizens and as delegates need to understand that if people are delusional, we don't want them to be representing we the people. And if they're liars, we certainly don't want them to represent we the people. And I'll go one step farther. There's 7 seals in the Congress. That's 7 too many for me. Because if you're a hammer, every problem is a nail. You go to a surgeon, you're going to have surgery. You're going to go to a lawyer, you're going to litigate. And if you fill your Congress with military people, this grift that we're into, where we have a worldwide empire and we pay other countries to let us defend them, foreign aid, why is that? That's because the fear that they create with these burqas, these Islamic burqas, the fear that is created in us boomers, the fear justifies this worldwide empire. And of course, we want democracy for everybody, to spread democracy. What it really is a giant psyop so that we hand this government $6 trillion a year of our money. And what is our money? Our money represents our energy. And there is an old myth about beings that steal other people's energy. You know what they're called? Vampires. Vampires. We live in a vampire system, and it's justified by this military industrial complex, and they have to make us afraid, and they have to give us a good story too. I know you need to be afraid. We got to fix these people. We got to do, what do they call that? Nation building. Nation building. We're in a scam, an intergalactic scam separating us from our energy. And I just, like I've said, any individual service member might be great, might convince me. I'm good with it. Not all service members are good. Many of them are bad. Just because you serve doesn't mean you're righteous. Just because you're a priest doesn't mean you're righteous. Look at all the sexual abuse in the church. I mean, just because you put on a uniform does not mean you're good. In fact, a uniform is a phenomenal disguise. Adam was up at that meeting with Royce, and Phil Parrish was there, and I'm trying to think, many elected representatives were there. Mike Weiner was there. Krista Knudsen was there. There was a lot of, A.K. Kamar was at that meeting. It was a great meeting of American citizens that want to do something. If you're hearing me, you all need to get on social media and follow me at Prof. Penn Podcast at X, at Professor Penn Podcast on Getter. Please repost the links to this broadcast. Please support this show by buying tires at Tire Getter. Just send us money. We're not shy to take a donation. We need it because we want to hire more engineers so we can expand this broadcast. And I do want to say at that meeting, it was so uplifting to be there. Royce was sensational. Of course, I'm backing Royce right now. He's my guy for Senate. Adam was overmatched. I've heard Adam give the same stump speech every time I've heard him. The exact same speech. Word for word, line for line. Royce never says the same thing two times. What do you want? Somebody reading off the music, which has got us $37 trillion in debt and an endless war? Or do you want somebody that can play by ear, play with jazz, respond to the conditions as they evolve, because they're evolving so quickly? Please, let's get into politics. Caucus is coming. If you're in Minnesota, it's time to get organized. I appreciate your viewership, your listenership. I want to ask you, please spread out these links. Ask your friends to watch the podcast. Just because I'm talking about strategy and tactics, please don't run away, because there's a lot of good information in here we covered tonight. I'm going to say to Dan Schultz, Dan, I got to mix it. We got to have strategy and tactics, but we got to put it in a package that engages an audience. And you're the audience, and I'm saying to you, and please don't take this wrong, don't die a political jack-off. Get in the game, because my ass depends on your participation. Thank you very much.
Have a good night, everybody.